Hello, and welcome to Real Film Snobs. I'm Angela Yeager. Pleased to have with me back on the show once again, Autumn Edwards. Welcome to the show, Autumn.
Hello, thank you for having me again.
Well, we're going to shock you all today because Autumn is our resident Asian cinema expert, but we're not doing Asian cinema this episode. So, Autumn is a woman of many talents, including reviewing all sorts of movies, not just Asian cinema. So, we're going to be doing an episode today called Catching Up on 2024. And if you're thinking, oh, this is strange, it's September. Why are we catching up? It's not over yet. Well, that's because we're getting ready for the big onslaught that will be the awards season, and those movies start coming out in October. And then I realized, oh, I have a lot of movies that I still haven't seen from the first half of 2024, so that I can then start to pile on all the movies for the second half of 2024. So we thought we'd review some of the more critically acclaimed movies that came out earlier this year, and we may have either missed in theaters or they never came here, in some of the cases. So we're going to start off with our first movie, which is called Close Your Eyes by the director Victor Erice. And in case that name sounds familiar to some of you cinephiles out there, Victor Erice did a film called Spirit of the Beehive, which many consider to be one of the greatest Spanish films of all time, and one of maybe the greatest films of all time. This is the director's first film in many decades. It follows a story of a Spanish actor who disappears during the filming of a movie. And although his body is never found, it's been concluded that probably he suffered an accident and died in some way. The director of that film, years later, appears on a TV show where they're looking into missing person cases, unsolved cases. And slowly he starts to try to unravel the mystery of what happened to his best friend and the actor who was in his movie. So this is a movie about movies, but more than that, I would say it's a movie about memories and about how we perceive both in terms of not just our actual memory, but the way we sense things, either visually or through auditory means. And one of the things I really loved about this movie is how it takes its time. It is a long movie to unwind and let us get to know the characters. And I really appreciated that about the movie because the characters are all really interesting and likable people, and we feel like we're kind of living amongst these people. And there is a deep sense of kind of melancholy and a wistfulness to the movie, which I think comes from the fact that this is a director, who's in his twilight years, shall we say, and the film is definitely that of a more mature director. Curious to hear what you have to say about it, Autumn.
Yeah, I feel very much the same way. I think it's an absolutely gorgeous film. First of all, the photography is wonderful. It's really well written. I'm just a sucker for movies about movies and the love of art and movies. And so I really like the way this drew, attention to like the permanency and lack thereof of film because, we have many reminders of like how images act as anchors for people in this movie. But at the same time, you have Max the archivist struggling to, maintain his room full of nitrate because it's so flammable and, we're losing films all the time. So I just really thought it was a wonderful exploration of the way we relate to images and how they like inform us throughout our lives and how, they're both permanent and impermanent. And the same goes for memories. They're always going to be part of our story, but, as we see one character loses his memory here and we all lose memories over time. And so I think it's just a beautiful evocation of many of my favorite themes. And I really liked the slice of life quality of it too. I thought it was wonderful the way it just slows down and takes its time. We just have some beautiful scenes by the beach with, a couple of friends hanging out, singing songs. It's just a really lovely film. I really enjoyed everything about it, and I like the ambiguity of the ending. I like that there was nothing definitive about it, and really, at the end of the day, the central like search to find this man and like the motivations behind that kind of recede in importance in the film. Like it becomes less important what exactly happened versus where we are now and how, we're going to connect this father and daughter and, connect everyone back to each other and put things back together. So I'm curious what you thought of the ending.
Yeah, I agree. I liked that it was ambiguous and I was a little surprised. I thought it might wrap up more than it did. So definitely if you don't like ambiguous endings, this movie may not be for you. But I appreciated it and I agree with you that it did seem like rather than well, at the beginning he's really trying to find out what happened to his friend. Did he disappear on purpose? Did he die? Did something horrible happen? Did he have an accident? And that it becomes less about that, like you said, and more about who once they find him, when it becomes more about who he is now, like you said, mending that relationship with the people in his life. And then maybe he's not the same person he was, but a lot of times people aren't exactly the same person they were 20 years later regardless. So I thought that was really fairly poignant. So um yeah, I found the movie really beautiful. And actually, I love the opening too, which is actually the scene from the film that they shot. But because I didn't know anything about this movie going in, I was just like, oh, this is kind of an interesting film. So the film they shot, usually when there's films within films, the film they shoot, you're going, oh gosh, this is terrible. It's a good thing you never made this. But actually, the film they were making looked, was elegantly composed and looked like it would have been an interesting movie. So
Yeah,
that
I
gives you more
absolutely would have
respect.
watched that movie. Like it
Yeah,
sounded so
exactly.
compelling.
In fact, I
And it
thought I
was
was at the beginning.
right, yeah, when you have no idea, it's really fun to get that turned on your head. And at the same time, it does a great job laying the groundwork for, the film to come and like how important some of these details are and how we, again, connecting just all the dots. It's a very satisfying, I think, like formal choice as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, definitely high marks for me on that one. I'm giving it 4 stars. And I think you're probably similar.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I gave that one four
Okay.
stars, and I think I might
Okay.
even get more out of it on a rewatch.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot to be said there. Okay, well, we'll move on to our next one, which I have a feeling will be a hot one for us to review.
Is the next one Chicken for Linda?
No,
Or
Trap. Trap,
Trap?
and
Oh,
it's
that's right. So Trap, yeah, Trap by M. Night Shyamalan. I really enjoyed this one. Trap is a movie with a pretty simple premise. There's a serial killer named the Butcher who's being hunted by the police, and they find out that he's going to be at this concert by Lady Raven, and they turn the concert into a trap. And so, with just a few hints to the killer's identity, they're out looking for him and they set up like, a perimeter around there. And eventually, Josh Hartnett, who's playing the butcher, catches on. And it becomes his mission then to escape this trap while also hiding his, alter ego or his secret life as a serial killer from his daughter, who is the reason he's at the concert in the first place. Because as it turns out, I think he's actually a decent family man. Whether or not he's a good man, I don't think that necessarily, but if you just take the family side of things and, if that was its own world and he wasn't a serial killer, he did quite well there, I think. And I think that was a really interesting choice by Shyamalan. And I just love like it's typical Shyamalan with the twist. There's a great, um, you can really divide this movie into a first and second half. And I just had no clue because, with all the advertising, I thought the entire thing was going to take place at the concert. But the second half really took me by surprise, and I just had no idea where it was going at any moment. And I thought that was really fun. And so
What
I'd
about the
love to hear
third,
your
fourth,
thoughts.
fifth, and sixth halves of the movie?
Of course.
Oh my
I know it's
God, this movie just kept going. It was like a hammer on my head, and I was getting ready to throw something at the screen.
oh, I thought it was
You're
great.
like you're a very smart person, and I respect you, but you have a weakness for Shyamalan that I do not. And as I was watching the movie, I thought Josh Hartnett looks like he's having a blast, and I wish I was having half as much fun as he seems to be making this movie. So I have a couple points. One is if you're going to set a movie at a concert and you're going to make us listen to the music, please, please, please don't make the music so unbearably bad. He cast his daughter, and it's like the worst kind of pop music imaginable. It's like the music that I will hear when I'm in hell. If I'm in hell, let's hope it's an if. I mean, this would be the music I would hear in hell. It's just like just sterilized pop. It just oh, it's so awesome, awful. Music is really bad.
Yeah.
And it's set at this concert where she's supposed to be this huge pop star, sort of like a Dua Lipa or Taylor Swift or I don't know, someone that I don't like anyway, but much worse than that. So there's that. He's got this magic earpiece, which my friend and I, who saw this together, we kept calling it his magic earpiece, where he could listen to the police and hear every word they're saying. And the concert, doesn't drown any of it out. So that was something. He cast Haley Mills, for you oldsters out there, like me, who might remember the original Parent Trap movies, as an FBI profiler. While she's still doing this job at age 80, we don't know. But there she is for no apparent reason. And there's four endings. I counted four endings to this movie. By the third one, my friend who was with me said he was going to walk out if Hartnett escaped one more time at the end. Um, I don't need a movie to be reality grounded because I know that's one of the complaints people had about this is like, this is so unrealistic. I get it. It's a movie. So are superhero movies. So are kung fu movies. They're not realistic. But it needs to have, especially when you're dealing with a serial killer, like it needs to have some sort of logic, even if it's its own logic. But it even defied its own logic. I'll give you an example. So there's a point. Well, this is going to be hard without any spoilers. Let me think about how to say this. So there's a point at which the police shoot at someone they think is our killer, right? In a car, if you remember that sequence, and blow off the thing they think is the killer's brains right away in a huge crowd with people watching. But then that was ending number two, by the way. Ending number four, or no, this is ending number three, maybe. I'm losing track. In the house, when they have him and there's not a crowd watching, they decide to use tasers. And it's the FBI profiler who comes out with it. For why? She's not a cop. I don't know. Um, there's just too much. There was too many holes for me to ignore. And as a writer, I one of my biggest pet peeves, and Shyamalan does this a lot, is he has a character who has to explain to you everything that's going on, like basically all the exposition. In this case, it's the t-shirt guy who says, "Hey, by the way, did you know there's a guy here?" And they're trying to catch him, and he explains everything to us. It's just the movie exhausted me.
Yeah, I'm not gonna make any arguments that it's Shyamalan's cleverest film or anything, but I think it's so fun. Like, I don't mind the many endings. To me, this whole movie was like a game of Hitman, like Agent 47. Like, it's just this video game where he's walking around causing distractions, trying to escape, and I'm just like, this is Hitman if you were allowed to keep playing after you failed the level and you can just keep escaping and stuff. And I was like, you
Okay,
know
but you know
what?
how we feel
I'm in
about
for the
movies as
ride.
video games. Come on, Autumn. I
Hey, no,
mean, I
absolutely,
think you're
but at
giving him a
least
pass because you like his films.
no, because the okay, look, when I say a movie's like a video game, it depends on the reason. It's not always like an insult here. For here, it's value neutral, okay? Like oftentimes I'm referring to the look of the film, which this one has a great look. I think like Shyamalan's craft is,
That's the
it's
best thing
always
in the
been
movie.
good.
It looks
Yeah,
fine.
it
I had
looks
no
great.
problems with the photography. The
And
writing, I could throw the entire script in the
yeah,
wastebasket. The
again, it's
writing and the
not his
music needs
cleverest,
to
but
go out.
it's a fun formal
But
exercise.
you
And
you have decent taste in music. Come
as
on.
far as the music, first of all, I'm not as passionate about it. Like I don't get as like riled up about it in movies as you, I guess. But first of all, I think it's very cute that he cast his daughter. I'm all for that. Good for them. Secondly,
Nepo
if her music's
babies.
bad, it's just like the rest of the music out there these days, you know? That's pretty realistic. If we're talking realism, having a very mid pop star be super famous and popular, that makes complete sense. That's just where we're at these
Sure.
days.
But speaking of the Nepo babies, if he wanted to just keep his daughter on stage as the pop star, that would have been one thing. But then she becomes part of the plot in that second half you
So
talked about.
good. So
And she
fun.
can't act at
I
all.
didn't I
She's
didn't expect that.
horrible. She's
Yeah, but this is a
horrible.
B movie, Angela. Like this
It's
is he's
not a
not
B
trying to
movie.
he's not
It
trying
was a
to
huge
make
budget.
anything
Oh,
pro
come on.
no, no, if he has a huge budget, that's because Shyamalan produces his own films. And I say good for him. He's gotten that budget up because he's worked very hard to get there. Doesn't need he needs to get any fancier with
Come
his
on, you need
stuff.
to get an you there you know how many singers can act? I mean, he could have found someone besides his daughter. It was just
Yeah, he could
distracting how
have, but
bad
he
she
didn't
is.
because he loves his
That
daughter, and I
scene
think
where
that's
she plays the
cute.
piano and you can tell that that wasn't in any way, shape, or form recorded in there. It's like totally studio sweetened. Her voice is modified. I mean, it was so
I'm
bad.
not here for a live performance, you know, I don't really care about that.
Yeah,
It's
but
a
it was
fun
supposed to be.
ride.
She's playing piano in their house. Come on.
It was
Okay.
a fun ride. I was
One and a
surprised. I
half
was on the edge of
stars.
my
I'm only
seat.
giving it a
Three and
half
a half
for
stars.
no way. Okay. That was our big argument, everyone. But we still love each other. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We'll move on.
All right. So the next
Now
one, I
chicken.
guess, is Chicken
Yes.
for Linda. So Chicken for Linda is a cute little animated French coming of age film. Linda's a young girl whose father passed away in front of her as a toddler, and she can't really remember much about him until Paulette, her mother, wrongfully scolds her one day and promises to make Linda any meal of her choice, and Linda chooses chicken with peppers because it's this last meal that she had before her father passed away, and she just associates it with him. And so, unfortunately for Paulette, she has a very difficult time acquiring chicken. She has none in the fridge, she has none in the freezer, and she has to go on a journey to find chicken. And she's got plenty of ups and downs. Eventually, she commits some crimes, even. Things get a little out there. But it's a fun ride. It's cute. It's harmless. Like, I enjoyed the colors of it. I enjoyed the animation style. I thought it was very well done. It's not like, you know, Bicycle Thieves or anything, but it's a
No.
cute little coming of age film, and I had a good time with it.
I enjoyed it. I was a little disappointed, to be honest, because it is on Criterion Channel and this movie had some buzz. It made a few lists. It technically it's listed as a 2023 release, but it really wasn't shown anywhere in the US till 2024, so we're counting it. I think I was a little disappointed compared to some of the animation I've seen coming out of
Hmm.
France, like Triplets of Belleville, for instance, or Persepolis is another really great example. Just really, really amazing animation. This one's probably a little bit for younger kids than those films.
Absolutely. I
And
think definitely.
it's so French. I mean, let's face it, the whole movie is about making a chicken dinner, chicken with peppers. I mean, who else with the French would make a whole animated movie about making a meal and having the whole community involved? There's some
We
cute
love movies about
characters.
meals.
I
It's
know. And there's some
one
cute
of my
characters.
favorites.
My favorite characters in the movie were the cat, of course,
Hmm. Hmm.
and her sister, who's kind of
I love her
she's
sister. I wanna
yes.
like be her sister. She was so cool. She's just like she's so over it. I'm like, yes, me
Yeah.
too.
She's over it. Yeah, exactly. But I felt like the animation at the beginning seemed more inspired than as it went on. Like the second half got more
Oh yeah.
slapsticky and wasn't quite as interesting to me. So it's
Hmm.
a solid 3 star for movie for me. I can recommend it, but it wouldn't be in my top of the year, I don't think.
Yeah, it definitely I feel like the intro almost sets you up for a different kind of movie. Like it
Hmm.
does feel a little bit more solemn and it's, you know, a lot slower paced and it does feel like more artsy, you know, but and it does get a little bit more traditional as it goes on. But yeah, I think it's a fun little film, you know, not everything is a masterpiece or whatever, but we should be thankful for the good, if not great films. Trap. So
No, I would say do not let yourself be trapped in the theater. And the movie's just too long. I mean, honestly, I probably could have even given it 2.5 stars if it didn't have 4 endings. But I was like, what is this, Lord of the Rings 3 again? Do I need to have 4 endings? I mean, just pick an ending. Like
Josh Hartnett is so fun to watch, though. You know, he's just going around looking all crazy, like having a blast. I loved it.
there's so many good characters they could. I mean, I kept thinking besides him. There's almost no one of
Who was
interest
the
in the
rapper
movie.
that came on? I forget. Was that shoot, let me double check this. He was so funny.
I think my favorite character was the t-shirt guy
Kid
and his
Cudi,
coda at the
yeah.
very end.
Hold up. What about Kid Cudi? Kid Cudi coming in with like the wig on and he's like kombucha. Sorry, pardon my language. Where's my
Oh,
kombucha? Where's
Brad's
my
gonna have to
oat
bleep
milk?
that. Thanks,
And then
Autumn.
he like, sorry, Brad.
Yeah, the
He's like
kombucha
hitting
guy.
on,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
that
he's like
wasn't
hitting on
funny.
Josh Hartnett. That was so funny. I was like, that's great. Apparently, he
I don't
improved
know.
a lot of those lines.
Oh, I'm shocked. I couldn't tell.
It was a good
He's a
time. I thought they were
master. He's up
great.
there with Cassavetes for improving. I'm being really
100%.
sarcastic here. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, we're going back to Trap because we can't stop arguing about that one. Okay. So Chicken for Linda, we do agree on. That's like 3.5, maybe in that
Yeah.
range. So definitely recommend it if you have Criterion Channel. I don't know where else it's available, but it's definitely available there. If you have kids, it's a cute animated film. Okay, now our last film. I'm excited about this one. Last Summer by director Catherine Breillat. Um, French director is very, very controversial, well known for films such as Fat Girl, which is also on Criterion. This film follows Anne, a lawyer who actually defends sexual assault victims, who lives with her husband Pierre and their cute little daughters. And Anne gradually starts to engage in an affair of sorts with Theo, Pierre's son from a previous marriage. Yes, you're right. This is an older woman and much younger man story. And eventually, this begins to put her career and her family in jeopardy. So, Catherine Breillat's a really interesting filmmaker. She's a feminist, but she also came out, if you can believe this, against the Me Too movement at one point and had some choice words for it. She's a controversial director in France as well as internationally for some of her views. She likes to push buttons. She likes to make us talk about and think about what we accept as the status quo, what we think is taboo, why we think certain things are taboo. I mean, she wants to explore these issues. It's not that she's saying, having affairs with underage people is good. It's not a, what's the word I'm trying to think of? It's not a
It's,
approval of
it's not
that. It's
advocating for it.
No, it's not
Yeah.
advocating. It's exploring these
Hmm.
issues, right, in society. In the case of Anne, she's this brilliant woman. Her husband is, she's in a solid marriage, I guess, sort of, but it's very, vanilla. And what Theo gives her is excitement, which is something she's missing in her life. And he looks at her in a way that I think she likes. He's very attracted to her. And that is very appealing to her, a woman in her 40s. The actor that plays her, Leah Drucker, who I'd not seen before, is really, really good because it's a hard
Hmm.
character to play. She's, in a lot of ways, very unlikable and pretty conniving, yet you kind of keep wanting to watch her, and that's difficult to do, I think.
Hmm.
So I'm excited to hear what Autumn had to say because I took her to see this, and she had not seen a Catherine Breillat film before, and I thought, okay, she's either going to think you're crazy, I hate you, or she's going to be into this because people tend to have those views of this director's movies.
Yeah, I really liked it too. I thought it was fantastic. I just think it's like really, really well directed. A lot of beautiful little grace notes throughout the film. Like I love the way she frames faces, and we just get these really long shots of just like beautiful portraits of people. And she's not a rapid cutter or anything. She knows how to pace a scene and how to, let you take in the shot and when to cut. And speaking of French films, you said Chicken Philinda is French. Like this is really French.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
having the the stepmother and the stepson, and oh, it's all illicit and everything. That's very, very French. But I thought it was really great. Like you said, it's complicated because it's obviously not advocating for it, but it's
Mm-mm.
exploring these very thorny subjects. And the main character, she's like you said, she's not necessarily a good person, but I also don't think she's, a horrible person or whatever. I think she makes mistakes, certainly. But I also have to respect her because she's so like capable. Like she's a very capable lawyer. She's a very confident woman. She's got great fashion sense. Like she looks great. Like I
Like
mean, what?
fashion sense, A plus. Behavior as exploiting someone, not so much.
Yeah, it's a little more complex there, but like, she's in many ways like she's just a very capable woman, and like so I respect her in that regard, and it makes everything else all that much, harder to like form a solid opinion on, I guess. It's very compelling. It's kind of a movie where I don't have an answer to it, obviously, but it sends me off on a great deal of trains of thoughts, and like it's just super compelling. There are so many moments where like it almost plays out like a horror movie at times too, because she's got
Hmm.
this big secret that she's hiding from everyone, and there are times where it comes very close, and it had me like holding my breath in certain scenes. It was very fascinating. I really enjoyed it. Um, yeah.
Yeah, she's definitely, I mean, in a lot of ways, I think this film is maybe, I don't know if I want to say good entry point into this director's movies, but I would say compared to Romance, which was her first big movie that got her a lot of attention from 1999, which has explicit and unsimulated sex, real quote unquote sex in it, was very controversial when it came out. Compared to something like that or Fat Girl, which is just super disturbing. Abuse of Weakness is another film she did with Isabel Huppert, also very disturbing. In some ways, this is maybe one of her least disturbing films. And I say
Mhm.
that, kind of like, but and it is beautiful and it is very French, as you said. I mean, they're gorgeously rich. This house they live in is just like a fantasy, right? So it's just, I
Mhm.
mean, and drinking wine, sitting around bored, it's the usual French things, nothing to do
Yeah.
but have sex. But she isn't a great person. I mean, the what she does to this young man, especially in the second half of the film, is pretty awful.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, she uses the techniques she knows about through her job that abusers use. And so I thought that was a very interesting turn that you don't
Hmm.
always see. It also makes you, I think, rightfully think about abuse as rather than a gender dynamic, as a power dynamic, and a lot of ways that the movie Tar did as well. So I appreciated that, and it's also just, as you said, gorgeously shot, and
Hmm.
yeah, so
Yeah.
definitely,
It's
definitely one to
also
check out.
like formally, I think it's really well crafted as well. Like
Hmm.
the way she sets it up with her speaking to the young girl and kind of coaching her through how, like, she talks about how she's going to be perceived by the world and everything, and how they're going to take her testimony and turn it against her, and how, like, she
Yes.
doesn't think it's bad that she slept with other guys or whatever, but other people will. And so it really does just set up all these little things that, kind of blossom throughout the film where you see her taking her own words and, her knowledge, like you said, and abusing it to get away with what she's doing.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's very dark in that regard, but I was also impressed with how like reserved it was, because it doesn't feel exploitative at all. Like this is very, you know, it's a hot, touchy subject, but it never feels like she's leering at it, or that it's, doing it just to get like outrage clicks type thing.
Right.
It's very, very tactfully done.
Yeah, and I'm really excited we got to see this on the big screen because most of her movies I always end up seeing on streaming. So that was a treat, shall I say. Well, thanks, Autumn.
Mhm.
It was fun. We'll be back soon with another episode of catching up on 2024. But there's four films for you to catch. Autumn recommended all of them, and I can recommend three out of four. As you could probably tell, we did not agree on Trap. Uh, so, as always, have a great day and great movies. Make sure to check out our website and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And thanks again, Autumn, for being on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Everybody go watch Trap. Don't listen to Angela. It's great. Have fun.
No, no, no. Okay, bye bye.
Bye.